Anyone who has spent Christmas Day alone will probably have no difficulty describing what loneliness feels like. And yet, loneliness does not only belong to those who are physically on their own. Many people feel lonely in crowds or around dinner tables and among friends they know well. In this video, I want to introduce you to 3 individuals. They all feel lonely, but for different reasons. And each of them points us towards a different way how to heal. You may find that you recognize something of yourself in one, or perhaps more than one of them. Bill is a young man at the beginning of a promising career. He's recently been promoted and relocated to a city office. He works in a fast-paced, high-performance organisation, one that values efficiency, teamwork, and measurable outcomes. On the surface, things are going rather well. Bill is respected at work, and yet at certain moments, particularly on public holidays, alone in his city flat, Bill does feel lonely. To understand why, we need to look back. Bill grew up as an only child in a poor household, in an isolated place with no car and few opportunities to socialise. There was little chance to develop social confidence in social settings. He spent long hours alone, largely in his bedroom, and that pattern continued at university. Now, in young adult life, Bill's workplace offered plenty of interaction, but most of it was role-based. Conversations revolved around targets, performance, or strategy. I expect you appreciate that loneliness arises not from a lack of interaction, but from a lack of emotional connection. Relationships that reduce loneliness involve trust. They also have empathy and mutual disclosure, not simply proximity or collaboration. Bill notices that his own thoughts often drift away from work altogether, towards more personal interests and concerns. But these don't have much space in his professional world, and so even when surrounded by people, he feels emotionally unseen. What Bill lacks isn't company, it's intimacy. He has no one with whom he can safely share his inner life. And because he's never experienced close personal relationships, intimacy does feel risky and unfamiliar. He becomes socially anxious when opportunities for deeper connection arise. But, as the saying goes, we don't learn to swim without getting into the water. For Bill, this means deliberately investing time outside work, joining a sports or hobby club, allowing friendships to develop slowly, perhaps even taking the risk of dating. It will require sacrificing some of the time and energy he currently devotes to work. But without that investment, loneliness is likely to persist, no matter how successful he becomes. Maria is aged 38 and socially well connected. She regularly attends dinners with friends and colleagues, and the conversation flows easily. Career updates, holidays, salaries, office politics, shared jokes. From the outside, Maria appears anything but lonely. Yet inwardly, that is exactly how sometimes she does feel. But why? Now, Maria is going through a shift in her personal development. After losing a parent, she finds herself thinking about mortality. Does consciousness survive after death? She is also questioning the value of her company's activities and the meaning of her own life. She wonders, how do we make sense of so much suffering in the world? Why does humanity keep slipping into war? Is there a spiritual power beyond what science can see? For Maria, asking questions is not a weakness. It's a natural and valuable part of being alive. But among her friends, these topics feel a bit heavy. And when she raises them, the conversation quickly moves on. Loneliness isn't simply about the absence of people. It can involve feeling different, excluded, or misunderstood, regardless of how many social or personal relationships we appear to have. So Maria is socially included, but inwardly unseen. When inner thoughts and feelings can't be shared or validated, loneliness takes hold. Social interactions may be lively, but they feel shallow when they never touch deeper matters. This kind of loneliness is not a failure. Often it's a sign of personal transition. Inner growth can temporarily increase these feelings of loneliness because personal development may outpace one's social environment. For Maria, the task isn't to abandon her existing friendships, but to expand her world, to seek out people who are also willing to live with uncertainty, with depth and questioning. Philosophy groups, spiritual discussion circles, retreats or study communities may offer the kind of conversation she's longing for. Loneliness here becomes a signal, an invitation to find companions for the stage of life she is now entering. The third person is called Anna. Now, Anna is physically disabled and lives close to her family. She attends a local church and is generally well liked. On the surface, she is far from isolated. Yet, Anna too experiences loneliness. Her church provides plenty of opportunity for conversations, chit-chat, friendliness, informal interaction, but the community implicitly values certainty, shared language, and positive faith narratives. And when Anna raises honest doubts or expresses spiritual struggles, she's often met with platitudes, silence, or even subtle withdrawal. Privately, she hears comments like, "Going to church is good for fellowship. It gives me comfort in hard times. But I don't always agree with the teachings, but I don't like to say so." Anna begins to feel that her church functions more as a social club than a spiritual community. She is someone who wants to live her faith deeply. Her religious beliefs shape how she lives every day. She wants to further explore her faith and see how it applies to real life, to her moral choices and her personal suffering. But she finds herself surrounded by people whose engagement appears largely conventional, maintained for security, respectability, or belonging. Her loneliness stems from a lack of shared religious depth with others. For Anna, loneliness has become a religious question. Where can I truly live my faith? One answer may be to seek a different church, one that is less dogmatic, that does support depth, that allows silence and vulnerability, and participation in genuine worship. A place where shared spiritual practices like prayer and contemplation create space for being who you are. In such a setting, Anna could possibly find deeper communion, not only with others, but with her God. Now, ultimately, what these three stories suggest is this. What matters most is our inner state of mind, and it is our inner state that determines who we feel we can connect with emotionally and spiritually. Excuse me. This idea is powerfully illustrated by the visionary experiences of 18th century mystic Emanuel Swedenborg. Now, Swedenborg, not everyone's heard of Swedenborg, but Swedenborg was a scientist, an engineer and a spiritual philosopher who, in the second half of his life, daily entered into what he claimed to be a visionary state. Now, in these visions, he said he entered into a state of consciousness shared by dead people, one he called the spiritual world. And in this realm, he reports that the inner states of the heart and mind of people are fully visible to others and cannot be hidden. So, in the afterlife consciousness, rather than in the physical world, people are still alive as to their inner spirit and are able to communicate with each other. Then they are seen to be in proximity to each other when they do this. However, this is the case only when their inner feelings and thoughts are in harmony. Swedenborg said that one individual is present to another only if that presence is intensely desired. But when there is reluctance, an opposition of feeling or thought, people move apart. Many may appear together while they agree, but as soon as they disagree inwardly, Swedenborg says he sees them vanish. Now, whether or not one accepts his visions literally, I would suggest the psychological truth is compelling. Loneliness is not simply about being alone. It's about being out of alignment with ourselves and with those around us. And the path out of loneliness often begins by seeking those with whom we can authentically be ourselves, who accept us for who we are. Now, if you found this video interesting, please give me a like. It does rather support YouTube's efforts to make this video available to other people. Thank you.